Pro Physique Code podcast prep series edition. So today, if you're not watching on YouTube, obviously you can see who is here for the day, but you've got me, Lexi, we've got Evan, and we've got, I laugh, I was going to say special guest, but he's not a special guest. We've got the man, the myth, Paul Ravella on today.
Hey, I'll take special guest. I'm excited.
I think special.
I want to talk all about prep. It's been it's probably the most hectic year I've ever had as a coach traveling for shows. So there's a lot of lessons learned in my head. So I think if we can put a lot of information out there, it'd be good.
Yeah, you have been busy. This is the first weekend that you're not traveling in a long time. Last week was Phoenix, right? And then the week before that, I don't think you did Phoenix and then you did Pittsburgh last week. You were in like multiple places in one day, right?
Yeah, we flew to Pittsburgh for Ariana's Road to the Olympia on Thursday. Thursday night, I flew to Phoenix where Daraja and Courtney did the pro show. And I also had Katie and Kelly do the NPC. So I had that long weekend, and going west is tough for me. But yeah, then coming up, we've got things like the Hurricane, with my man Evan's doing here, and then we've got the Clash, we've got the Amateur Olympia, the actual Olympia, Ben Weider, like nationals. Like it's just it doesn't feel like there's an end.
It feels like it's not like never stopping.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, Evan?
I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
A little bit.
I'm hanging in there. Yeah.
Well, today's topic will be something Evan's thinking about already, I'm sure.
Post-show. Well, we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about how to set up an effective post-show improvement season. I think more so specifically talking about like when you end your season, kind of how to approach that phase. Because I think that's very tough for a lot of competitors. You have post-show blues, but some people just feel a little lost. So I want to talk about how like each of us approaches the post-show off-season, improvement season, whatever you want to call it, with our clients when they wrap up their season. Like, what do we focus on? Getting judges' feedback? How do we decide what the goals are? I kind of just want to touch on, all of that. Because I know that there's a good amount of people out there this time of year wrapping up their season. So I think this will be relevant to a lot of our listeners at least at one point in time. So
absolutely. This is the time of year where people are starting to wind it down. So let's kick it off. Evan, tell me your thoughts.
Personally or for clients?
I think that's a great answer for a couple reasons. There isn't one solution for every type of competitor, right? So it depends on the feedback. I want you to pick a competitor. You don't have to say his or her name. And give us a scenario, and then we'll each do that. And what you use, I'll use something different. If you use a pro, I'll use an amateur. If you use an amateur, I'll use an amateur. Kind of give us a scenario and let's talk about it.
Yeah, I have a couple different ones. I can go off the one competitor I had that just competed a few weekends ago, because this is a different situation than most. Most times you go in a show, it's one of a few things. It's either, you need to build more muscle in a certain area, or you need to be tighter, improve presentation, improve something with that, right? It's usually one of those two things. But the one a few weeks ago was a little bit different, because the feedback on her was she was over-conditioned and too hard. So with her, it's a little bit different, because the feedback is opposite of what you get from most, right? So with her, the approach that we're taking is more of just a reverse into another show. Now, when is that show going to take place? Kind of depends on how our body reacts to it. We're just kind of taking it week by week and going to take that as it comes. But that's the situation with that one. I've had obviously other ones that the feedback is you just need more time to grow, right? And if the feedback is you need more time to grow, then that's the feedback there. That's what we take. And we can go into, if you want, like how I set all that up and how that looks like. But it's typically one of those two scenarios with it.
Yeah, I know the girl you're talking about, and I think everyone thinks like, oh, that'd be so awesome to be too lean. But it's not necessarily awesome, because that's very difficult to navigate. You're dealing with someone that's going to have a little bit of body dysmorphia if they put on any body fat. And honestly, when you're that lean, it's very difficult to add a significant amount of muscle because everything is so compromised. So
Yeah, you're correct on that one. It's the body dysmorphia part because we all get to it, right? And we all find that out after a show. Like, everyone's heard like post-show depression, which happens to a lot of people. And I think I can go a few different ways, and the reasonings behind that. It can go either that they don't have a clear defined goal after that, like they had for prep, or it's the fact that, when you do see your body change in the opposite direction of what you were striving for initially, that can really mess with your mind as well. So like, especially in this athlete situation, yeah, I mean, it's hard for her, right? Because she dieted so hard to get so lean, and it is very impressive to see. It's just not the division, but trying to explain that to someone who looks at themselves in the mirror is not always the easiest thing to
so
do.
let me ask you this. Is she in off season? Because I still see her post. She looks fantastic. Where are you guys at?
We're reversing out of it, and slowly raising her food. With her, it's one of those things where we're working through some mental barriers at points with it on trying to be able to get her food up, without obviously distending her stomach as well, because food has been low for so long for her that she wants to keep her stomach tight while we are trying to fill her back up with that. So it's about trying to balance, like, protecting her mental state while still getting to where we need to go with it. And that's one of the hardest parts with it is you can say, hey, here's a clear defined goal. Here's how we get there. But you have to be able to coach on the mental side of it too, to make sure they're comfortable with that process to be able to get them there.
Yeah. Yeah. So didn't really answer the question. Is she done competing? Or if you get to a point in this reverse where you feel she's
going to be done for
criteria,
this year. She'll be done for this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From what I'm seeing right now, I don't think we'll be able to do it this year. No, it'll probably be early next year.
So I'll talk about my theory on the post-show experience and how it's changed over the years, and how I think I've really helped competitors manage that. And Lexi can chime in because she's one of my competitors who just managed a fantastic transition from prep to not in prep, right? And I think one of the most important aspects, there's two things. A, how did you get stage lean? And B, set the next goal before the season is over, right? So like that 2-3 week, 2-month window after a show is so important that if you don't have a goal, if you feel lost, if you feel kind of like unfocused, it's going to be bad, right? In almost every situation. However, if you're able to go into the show having, reversed a little bit, done some diet breaks, and you end your season with a purpose, okay, I know I need more size, and you set that next goal, hey, we're going to hit the stage in 6 months with more size. We're going to hit the stage in 8 months with more size. Here's our target. Even if they have a little bit of freedom, they've still got this guiding principle. They're still making decisions based on what they want long-term. Because we've probably all three done a prep where we didn't know if we were ever going to compete again. And that doesn't go well. Like, it's definitely, the cardio stops, the training becomes half-assed, the drinking returns, the meal prep goes away. And then, a couple months later, you're like, damn, I look like I never even did a show.
Yeah, I think having those goals right off the get-go is so important, just because I think where a lot of competitors go south is the shows are over, the show date is no longer, doesn't exist. And so it's like, all right, well, now what? And so I think setting those clear, defined goals, even if you're not 100% sure how long you're going to spend away from stage yet, at least kind of setting like a tentative timeline, I think is really helpful. But I mean, you touched on something I think that's really big, Paula, especially you said usually how competitors treat their post show, a lot of it can be dictated on what they did to get lean in the first place. I see a really big correlation between girls who are on just really awful, like cookie cutter meal plans, doing like just basically like surviving. And those tend to be the same people that struggle the most post show, like with their relationship with food or with binging. Not everybody, but I see that happening a lot, compared to, like, I know you prepped me and we did macros the entire time, and by post show I wasn't really craving anything in particular. I mean, I had a nice like couple of treats that night, but like the next day I was like, all right, I'm ready to just get back to my normal food because I enjoy it and it makes me feel good.
Yeah. So some people will hear that and they'll think, oh, you do macros, you don't take the sport seriously. I think there's a very big difference between someone who does macros but still preps their meals like they're in prep versus someone that goes, oh, I can just hit my numbers eating whatever crap I want to throw in there and be successful. And I promise you, the person that preps their meals, sticks with the whole foods, might get sick of lean turkey and swap it for lean ground beef and prep because that's, you know, an A+ food for an A+ food. That's flexible dieting. It's not, oh, I'm in the mood for, you know, ice cream tonight, so that's what I'm going to have, which is going to then, you know, leave you hungry, trigger more, you know, hunger signals and all kinds of things. So meal prep is still essential to be a successful bodybuilder, but you can be a macro based competitor because it's simply the mindset that you go, I could have this. I could make it fit. If it requires me to have a successful prep, to have, you know, I do Pop-Tarts quite a bit, especially on days when my carbs are in the 300 to 400 range. But I don't eat Pop-Tarts when I'm having 150 grams of carbs in a day. I'm just not doing 50% of my carbs in 2 Pop-Tarts, right? So, you know, it's figuring out that.
Yeah. And this is a little bit off subject with it, but it's the only difference between a macro-based plan and a meal plan-based plan is a macro plan or a meal plan-based plan. You just take macros and create a meal plan off of those macros.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. There's really not any difference in it, but you just have the flexibility to be able to swap some stuff out, right? So like if you know, at the end of the day, if you're a little bit hungrier and you don't want to have rice with your meal, have some oatmeal, right? And maybe don't add the added fats in there. Make it all equal out. That's kind of what we're talking about with that.
Yep, 100%.
But in, you know, I think especially for post show too, it's having that good, clear, defined goal. Obviously, getting feedback from the judges and the judges saying, "Hey, yeah, you need a little bit more size in some certain areas." Let's say that's the feedback. Then you get with your coach, you talk about it, you figure it out, you find out what your plans are for the next year. Do you have any vacations planned? Do you have any big commitments done? Are you buying a house? Are you getting married? You know, anything like that in there. And then you could figure out, okay, we probably need about a good 6 months of building. And then you can work your plan backwards from that way with it. But having those clear, defined goals is really helpful. And the truth is, your coach and you are probably going to have an idea about what the feedback's going to be before you go into the show. In most circumstances.
Yeah, I think it is really important. First thing you should do as like a competitor, I mean, not just at the end of your season, but after every show is get that judge's feedback, whether it be in person or emailing the judge after the show. Because I think your feedback, a lot of times it's good, like dependent upon your feedback is it's going to kind of allude to how long maybe you need to take away from the stage. So like, for example, if somebody's feedback is, hey, you've got great straight shape and structure, you just need to add size everywhere, they're probably going to have to take a little bit longer of a time away from stage compared to somebody who's like, you know, who gets the feedback of everything is great, just work on fine tuning this little area or whatever that may be. They may not need to take as much time away from stage. I think that's why you see like a lot of pros not having to take as much time off of stage if, you know, if they don't want to, because they already have the muscle and they don't need that as long of time away from stage in order to implement that judging feedback.
Yeah, I think the longer you go in the sport, the shorter your off seasons tend to become, because you get closer to that ideal physique for your division. And also, I think 3 of us can agree we're better versions of ourselves when we're in prep. We're a little bit more diligent with our diet, with our training, with our focus. We get that extra rep. We make sure we get to bed on time. We don't miss a workout. And so even though you're technically in prep for part of that year, it's not like you're not making progress. You know, only when the going gets really tough and your body fat gets to a certain point where, okay, now you're having to cut some reps short and you're just fatigued. That's really where you stop putting on muscle. But in my mind, you're still adding muscle throughout that process. You're still refining the physique.
You're still improving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I even set the goal for some people, even if they're doing a show with me in like a year, we're in prep. We're not fat loss part of the prep, but you know, I have some clients that are like, hey coach, I'm 40 weeks out, 39 weeks out. I'm like, cool. That's the mindset that's going to make them better.
And it goes by so fast too. Bodybuilding time. I mean, Some people look at, oh, I have to take a year off is so long, and it flies by. It really does. Like when I took all of 2022 off, it flew by. I mean,
Right.
but a lot of people look at, oh, that whole year off, it's going to be so long. And it's only long if you choose to look at it that way, but set some clear, goals, whether it be even goals outside of bodybuilding too, like life goals, career goals, things like that, vacations that been wanting to take. But I like to look at it as, you're always, if you want to be truly like a good athlete, improve year to year, season to season, I like to look at it as you're always in prep year round, like you said, Paul, but you're just either prepping and getting leaner, which is like technically what we associate the prep with, or you're prepping and you're improving. Like, I just like to look at it as kind of a year round lifestyle. And it just, the goals change depending upon what part of prep you're in. But if you want to improve, like, you can't just only take it seriously when you're actually, in the fat loss phase of prep.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of the granular stuff when it comes to the sport, because the off season, as nice as it sounds, okay, it's the time between shows. This is where we'll talk about like getting feedback, right? And then applying that feedback to your physique. So let's apply it directly to you, Evan. You competed last time. Was it the Tampa Pro?
Yes.
Was that last year?
Tampa Pro last year. Yeah.
2022 Tampa Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And your feedback was?
Bigger.
Yeah.
Bigger, more back density, more chest fullness. Do I still need to improve that from where I am now? Yes. Is it better than it was before? I sure as hell think so.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what I've focused on in my off season. Like those two big things right there are huge things that I focused on. My meals were focused around that. Like if I was tired before like a back day, I wouldn't train that day, or I would change my split around to be able to focus more on that area I needed to grow. If I was having refeeds, I would have them on that day. Even now, like deeper into prep, the way that I have my split broken down is all based around those two main factors that they brought forward to me with that. So that's just, if you want to be the best that you can with it, then you have to take the judges' feedback and you have to apply it. And some other stuff that I've done as well throughout the process is talk to some of the judges, right? And see how they think my progress has been going, posing in front of them, getting their feedback throughout the process, not just necessarily like directly post-show, right? And talking about like post-show and did I have like clear defined goals directly after that show? I didn't, but also too, I've done like 23 shows at this point. So it's nothing really different. Like my life doesn't really change, right? It's like, okay, I just take the feedback and I make the improvements. And when I make the improvements, I'm ready to go with it.
Yeah. And I think, you're surrounded by people that are very good at the training stuff. You take that stuff very seriously. I've traveled with you quite a few times this year, and you are always focusing on your meals. You're taking that part of the process very seriously. And I think that's when most people don't take advantage of it. They kill it in prep. Almost all of us are like locked in prep. It's that, do you take that mindset into the times when you're not 12 weeks out? Right. So
I'll tell you I noticed this the other day, because this prep for me has been way different than any other prep that I've done. It's the first time I've like honestly just coached myself from complete start to finish on there. Yeah. Also, my starting point was different than it was before. My life is in a different place than it was before. There's just a bunch of different variables with that, right? So it's this one was considerably different. I think it's in all, I think it'll be by far my best look and best package with it. But I was actually thinking about that this morning on how I don't really feel like there's a massive difference between my life like in prep and out of prep. It's all pretty much the same. I just enjoy more things obviously outside of prep, like going out and having fun and eating more what I want. But I'm still on the ball with it. I still check the boxes on a daily basis on the things I need to, right? And then if you do that on a daily basis and you're used to that, when you switch into prep, it's not so much of a difference or a change. You just button a few things up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think as we progress as human beings, we do the things that we love more, and we're pulled in opposite directions less. So like even when I go on vacation, I'm still gonna get up and do some kind of a training, or like that's just who I am. It's what I enjoy. And you tend to kind of gravitate towards those people in your lives. So like, some people get into lifting for reasons other than it's something that it truly, that they're excited and love, whether that's they just want to look a certain way or feel a certain way for a short amount of time, and they just don't stick with it. They kind of come and go. But there's other people that that and I find that this is where competition helps, because I was that person that I was working out for a decade with kind of no real focus, and when I decided to compete, it really changed that entire outlook for me, because even when I wasn't competing, in the back of my mind I was like, I'm going to compete again, right? So
that's a really good point, Paul.
I mean, similar, like kind of for me when I got into bodybuilding. I mean, I was a gymnast growing up, and I remember when I quit that, I kind of felt like something was missing. Like I still loved the lifestyle of being active, being athletic, but I wanted something to like kind of fulfill that competitive nature. And I dabbled a little bit with running, and I don't run anymore. But then I got into bodybuilding, and it was like that, and like in competing, and found out about that, and that was like the perfect kind of thing, like to kill the void that I had wanted, because I've just always grown up having that like goal, or that kind of athletic competitive nature, and bodybuilding really helped me. It was like just the natural next progression in my adulthood.
Yeah, I like the point that you brought up all about like it almost kind of always being in the back of your head, because you know, I played football in college. I worked out since sixth grade, right? So even when I got out of college, I was one of the only guys that stayed in shape, or I thought was in shape, right? With that, I would still go train every day. I would try to watch what I ate, but once I fell into the competing thing, that's when a lot of stuff changed. I still go to the gym. I honestly probably go to the gym less now than I did before, but my gym sessions are more structured. They make sense. I'm not in there just beating myself to oblivion every single day. I'm also not going out and getting, blacked out drunk 3 nights a week either, like I was back then. So that changes a little bit as well with it. But yeah, it's everything is more intentional now.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, it's not anymore though. It's just more intentional.
Well, and I think bodybuilding, as much as anything in life, is completely meritocracy based. It's who does it the longest, the most consistent. A lot of people go all in for a year or two, but I'm telling you, the best bodybuilders that I know, they've been doing it for a decade, rain or shine. It's just who they are. And it's just compounding interest, because you're putting even smaller amounts of muscle on already significant amounts of muscle. And now you're refining things. Now you're learning, like, okay, when I was benching when I was young, I was elbows wide, I was all shoulders. Now I know, okay, I'm actually engaging my pecs. So it becomes almost more fun, because now you're seeing these minor changes on a physique that's already had a lot of change. And that's where the competitors really shine, because they are, for all intents and purposes, they're like in a lab setting. They're hitting their numbers, they're doing their training. You can literally witness people's body changing. I've got a couple competitors that come to mind right now. I'll shout her out. Maybe she listens. Her name's Lauren Mejias. She started with me last, maybe early this year, late last year. And just seeing the amount of muscle she's added to her frame in a complete off season. We never prepped together. She came to me right out of a prep. And I'm just like, I literally cannot wait to get her on stage, because you can see week after week her shape change. She's come to a couple events that I've had at the gym. She's checks in every week on time. She's just locked in, and it really shows, right? So the competitors, when people ask me like, why do you coach competitors? Because you can mold them so much more significantly, right? They are just doing the same things over and over, and you're able to go, okay, this training cycle, we're going to swap hack squats for, a different movement, because I think our quads are growing a little to it. And then like a couple of weeks later, you'll be like, cool, I'm noticing already the quads have been like de-emphasized a little bit. Now I'm seeing a little more emphasis in the glute, right? Or vice versa. I have some people that are glute dominant. So that's why it's fun to coach the competitor side. And that off season, that post show is so valuable, especially when you get a competitor like a Lauren who told me my next round of shows, I want to win an overall, I want to win a pro card. When she goes in the gym right now, from this whole 11 months that we've been together, that's been her focus with her workouts, with her diet, right? And it shows. And that's the exciting thing to me. It's such a delayed gratification as an athlete and as a coach. But you see somebody like Ariana Brothers who took 3 years off. No one heard from her, but she never stopped doing the work. And her physique when she came back was completely different than when she left, right? So that's the fun thing. That's the exciting thing. That's a successful off season. You don't have to be like talking about it on social media. You don't have to be making a YouTube video every day to be a successful athlete. Those things are great, but you don't need to be doing that.
Absolutely.
Here's a real good example, Paul. The one I sent this to you yesterday.
Yeah.
Of Nick
Yeah.
Walker. Everyone swears, and you go back and look at comments from everything from to last year, he's maxed out. There's no different. He doesn't look any different. He's the same. I've been telling Paul for 4 months. I was like, Nick's gonna be like 15, 20 pounds heavier on stage.
Yeah.
And then look at the comparison pictures from this year to last year.
Right.
It's huge differences. And that's from someone who's already top 3 in the world, who's already one of the biggest humans.
Yep.
And it's still making progress. And in a short amount of time, like his offseason has been from the Arnold till now. So it hasn't even been long. He had like a 4.5 month offseason.
Yeah,
But
we should we have to do an Olympia. Let's do an Olympia predictions podcast before the Olympia.
Yes.
Just for
I mentioned-
bodybuilding, not for bikini.
Oh, okay. Well, then I probably
That's
can't
true.
because I don't know squat about them. But no, we should do an Olympia prediction episode.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But that's just a prime example of how post-show is so important for a variety of reasons. But if you want to take this sport seriously, it is the most important part, because that's where you're going to get so much of an insulin response and body response. You might as well just be shooting a bunch of insulin post-show. If you handle it correctly and you diet correctly and you reverse out of it correctly, your body soaks up everything and uses it. If you're smart about how you reverse out of it.
It's debatable. As a natural athlete, your hormone levels are going to be a little bit tanked, so you're very easily fat adapted in that state. You can store body fat very quickly.
Well, sure. I mean, you can as enhanced too.
Yeah.
It's just you have to. I'm saying you need to handle it smart post show to be able to get the.
Well, let's talk a little bit about
body fat.
let's talk a little bit about going into a show, because someone recently asked me on Instagram, like, what's the best way to handle a reverse diet? And I said, oh, cool. When's your show? They're like, this weekend. I was like, have you done a refeed? Have you done a diet break this prep? They're like, no. I'm like, it's too late. I'm sorry. But if you haven't had a recovery period of a day, a week throughout the process, when the show is over, the floodgates are going to open. I'm sorry, especially if you're actually shredded. When you take away that show goal, that thing that keeps you from going in the pantry at night or gets you up in the morning to do your cardio, you take that away, it is, I would say, the likelihood of success for someone that has not at least brought the food up going into the show or taken some recovery periods, in my experience, which is more than most people's, you're talking about like 99% failure rate. I don't think I've ever seen somebody start a successful reverse diet the Monday after a show, just gradually walking the food up and staying happy.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
tough.
with a girl this past week. I think she's like a month post show. She just signed up with me and kind of a similar like standpoint, like that kind of happened to her, and she was really, I mean, I'm glad she came to me when she did, not any later, but she's been really struggling this first month post show. But it was like very, very aggressive, no refeeds, nothing like that going into her show, and it's just been really hard for her to get on track post show, just with her food intake, lots of ups and downs. So I would agree with that.
And I also want to clarify what I said. I wasn't saying post show take insulin. I was saying it's almost like your insulin response that you get from the food.
In my mind, I was hearing you say post show is the most anabolic you'll be, which I completely disagree with that. The most anabolic you'll be is when your food is high, your hormones are happy. I will say post show, your training does improve drastically because your food goes up. So there is that feeling of like,
Mhm.
wow, it's great to be back in the gym. But
Mhm.
from a perspective of like, you know, what's more likely to happen, add muscle or add body fat, you're definitely, you know, your body is like just ready to put body fat back. It just, you need to get healthy in that
Yeah.
regards hormonally. So if you are a natural athlete coming out of a show, it does make it more difficult to put on muscle because you're a bit hormonally compromised. Now, if you're working with a company, if you're getting hormonal support and your hormones are already good and you start adding food back in, Evan, you know, you may be absolutely right there. That's not something I have a ton of experience with. But yeah,
I
just
think like the thing that kills me is I think a lot of first time competitors are more susceptible to making this mistake, but what kills me is when you see girls, you know, post show, they go a little too crazy. And I'm not just talking like that night or the next day, but like go crazy for like a week. And then they're like, oh crap, they're up 10, 15 pounds in like a week, which it does happen to some people. And then they want to do another fat loss phase. And it's like, well, you can't, like, your metabolism is not in a position where you can do that. You know, whatever you put on, you're gonna probably have to kind of sit with that. So that's why that post show phase and having those clear cut goals and staying in communication with your coach is so vital.
well, let's talk about you a little bit, Lexi, because I think we can get a little bit personal here because we had a season where I think we had some expectations. Those
Mhm.
expectations were not met. You could have easily spiraled after your shows, but instead, you're essentially at stage condition right now, eating all the food and growing in your improvement season. Um, let's talk about what makes that possible. What makes us successful? Where instead of talking about all the things that aren't going to happen, let's give it a positive spin. What can you do to nail the post show experience?
So I think for me, I think the first thing is I mean, we did have to get more aggressive than I've ever had to get before for prep as far as like my food goes and my cardio goes. So I'm not saying we didn't get aggressive, but we always had the macros approach. So like going back to what we said a little while ago, I was always able to choose what I wanted to eat, right? So going into my show, I never really felt like deprived. I mean, there were some things I was like, oh, I do want to try this post show, but I wasn't like I had this laundry list of, like ideas of things I wanted to eat post show. So I think that really helped, the macros approach and having say over what I was eating. We also always incorporated refeeds or diet breaks, especially towards the end, those last couple weeks when my carbs got pretty low. We always incorporated, usually we did like 2 back-to-back refeeds. And then with peak week, after we depleted for the weekend, we were able to bring carbs up. So it wasn't like I was really going into the show feeling super depleted. So I think that had a lot to do with, okay, I competed. And then afterwards, I didn't feel the need to go as crazy. But also I think what helped for me is, and this isn't always going to be the case for everybody, is I wasn't quite sure what my next steps were going to be after Tampa Pro. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to compete again or call it a season for the rest of the year. So I had that in the back of my mind. And so that's why I tried to stay very kind of on track post show, because I knew, oh, I may be stepping on stage again this year, but
Mhm.
I may not. So I kind of knew I needed to keep things in check there. But I think also, like, I've just learned at this point that the post show food, it tastes great in the moment. But for me personally, it does not make me feel good the next day. Like,
No.
it's great as a one and done, but usually I find all I need is like a taste of something or a meal, and then I'm good to go because I realize and I quickly am reminded how kind of bad it makes me feel, not necessarily from a mental standpoint, but like physically. Digestion's a little off, I'm kind of feeling a little bit more sluggish. So I'm always reminded how like good I actually feel with my normal diet. So I think that really helps me to kind of keep it in check post show too.
The hardest thing is, well, it's not hard, but when I first started competing, I looked forward to so much like the post show dinner, going out, doing that. Now it's like, whatever, because I know if I push that just a little too far, I'm going to feel like crap the next day. And that's a bad feeling. It's just not, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And it's one of those things too. I know we talk a lot geared towards like newer competitors on things, but the more you do this, the easier all of this gets. The
Yeah.
easier your planning gets, the easier the reverse out gets, the easier it is to not fall off the rails. And to be honest with you, the truth is you can get away with way more the longer you do this. Way more. I can get away with way more post show now than I ever could 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. It's really funny. So like I mean, I still have a sweet tooth, but growing up, like I had a huge sweet tooth. But now I remember backstage at the Tampa Pro. I mean, it got over so late there. I didn't want to go out to eat or anything. I just wanted a couple treats in my hotel room and to go to bed. But backstage they had some like little bite-sized desserts, and I grabbed one, and it was like a blondie, I think. And honestly, taking one bite was good, but it's like I'm not used to that sugar. So it was really sweet to me. And I was almost like, oh, okay, I just need one bite. And like, that's all I need. So it's funny how the longer you stay away from that stuff too, kind of just like the more sensitized you become to it.
Yeah, and like you get used to feeling good, right? And that's the hard part is you get used to feeling good. You get used to your digestion feeling good. And it's one of those things like when you like me, I used to drink and party a lot. I never realized how obviously I would be hungover and feel like crap, but I never realized how good I felt until I pretty much just I went shoot almost like 4.5, 5 years with having like maybe like a drink or two a year at that point with it. Now it's it's a little more now, but like it's not right now, but it's it's you forget how good you feel. You forget how good you
100%.
feel. And
100%.
it's hard. I was talking to Danielle about this the other night, how we were talking about like all the cookies and food and stuff that she has and are ready for post show. And I was like, what's sad is I would rather just have like some of your like Rice Krispie treats, like just standard Rice Krispie treats with marshmallow, no butter, no anything else with that, because I know they digest well, they fill me up, and they make me happy. And it's it's sad, but it's I like feeling good, right?
I mean, I always go for like the protein bars post show. Like I'll have a couple protein bars I want to try, and like that, they're sweet, but like they don't wreck my digestion. I mean, yeah, that's what I go for.
Yeah, I think so. I've shared this with a lot of you guys, but I decided this year I wasn't going to drink any alcohol. I've had one
Mhm.
drink of alcohol this whole year. That was at Steven's wedding. I had one whiskey with him, just because it was his wedding. But literally, that's it. Like not a beer, not a shot, not anything this whole year. And one thing I notice is when I travel to these shows, typically the thing is, the stress, the anxiety of show day, the excitement of winning, losing, all those things. Then we go out to dinner. I'd have a couple drinks. I'd travel home, and I would just feel off for half a day. I would feel fatigued because obviously sleep is an issue and travel when airports and all that stuff. I have had zero issues with energy, with hunger, with anything related to that. And I have to think it has so much to do with alcohol because I just haven't had any. So yeah, I mean, in the off season, I know that's a big part of it. At least I remember my first show was the first time I hadn't drank in like 6 months. I was 32 and I was in the prime of my social like life. So that was probably the biggest adjustment for me, honestly. Doing my first prep was like not going out with my friends 2 nights a week to the bars, right? And I would still go, but I would just drink sugar-free Red Bulls. But I remember that I always felt good the next day. But that was the first thing I did after the show. I couldn't wait to go out drinking with my friends. We went to downtown Orlando, got, shit-faced, and
Yep.
I just don't have that pull anymore. So I will say that if you're a bodybuilder who kind of goes into off season and you just keep the same routine, I still get up and do cardio every day. I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm prepping my food 2 or 3 days a week. I'm going to the gym every single, workout that's planned. Like those things are incredibly powerful. It doesn't have to be this, like, I don't know. Some people make it seem like you're going to war. No, man, just make it like you're brushing your teeth. Make it like it's a part of your day. Nobody's like, I brushed my teeth today. Yeah. No, it should just be like, hey, I went to the gym and I ate some good food and I'll do it tomorrow. I don't have to, it doesn't have to be news.
Good parallel with that, Paul, is the same thing like people think with peak weeks too, right? It's supposed to be this, it's peak week, it's all this. It's like, well, it's really just not that much different. It's just you kind of back movement down. And
I mean, if you've got a shitty peak week plan and you're dehydrated, they pull sodium out, you're no longer allowed to eat. I don't know. I've seen some crazy stuff. Yeah, you better be prepared because you're about to pass out.
Yeah, it's it shouldn't be these drastic changes. That's
Yeah.
what it's consistency. I always say like um consistency is what breeds the results. Like that's what it is. And
Yeah.
it can even be something that's not even correct. But if you're doing it or not optimal, not correct, that's a better way to put it. But like it doesn't have to be optimal. But if you do it consistently, it's going to improve. You're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to improve.
And that consistency yields more predictability too, which is super
Yeah.
helpful for a coach as well.
Same thing. Like we can equate this to training, right? I make progress in training back 7 years ago when I didn't know a tenth of what I do now or 20th of what I do now. I still made progress. I
Yeah.
just make more now.
Yep.
But I still made a ton of progress back then. It doesn't have to be perfect. Not everything has to be perfect.
Yeah. Consistency obviously trumps that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's talk about one more aspect and kind of wrap it up here a little bit. Let's get a little bit into training in the improvement season in the time between shows. What changes, make a successful post-show experience? Give me your
Like
thoughts, Lexi. How has your training changed since we decided to go back into an improvement season?
Oh, I feel like so I feel like I'm one of those competitors that it doesn't take me too long to feel good in the gym again. And I think part of it is psychological, but I mean, I would say my workouts style has not changed. It's just the strictly the intensity and the strength is back. And also I'm more excited to go train. I mean, obviously there comes a point in prep where you're just doing so much cardio, like training is kind of just like, you just feel like a zombie. And I definitely had gotten there a lot, towards the end of prep. So I feel like my training style, like my workouts haven't changed a ton. Still, focusing on a very similar split, but it's like the intensity is now back, the strength is back, better pumps. I am more excited to go into the gym. I'm like not dreading it or anything like that. So I think that's been the biggest difference for me. And I feel like I feel like an athlete again too.
Yeah. Yeah. Evan, let's dig into that a little bit with you, because obviously you had some specifics that you wanted to focus on in improving. So how did you apply those?
I was training.
Mm-hmm.
The intensity I was training with. Um, I think I was doing too much volume and worrying too much about trying to push heavy weights, rest in going to failure way too often on there. So I wasn't recovering as much. But with that being said, I made the sets I needed to count. And that's what I'm focusing on right now, too, in this point in prep and I think that's why I don't look as flat or feel as flat, even though my food is like by far the lowest it's ever been, like by a large margin. And I think that's because of how I'm training. My volume is far lower than it was, but my intensity is higher for fewer sets.
Yeah, I think you and I,
Um,
going back the last time we trained together, that's kind of our approach, was almost like all the sets were activation type warm-up sets. I don't like the word warm-up because they weren't warm-ups, but they
yeah.
were more like preparing us for one all-out top set,
Yeah.
and maybe a drop set on some movements. But the goal was like really making that one set, not 4 sets of 15, but one set of 12 with a good amount of volume building up to that. But that was it. And then we were done.
Yeah, it's like, and that's why I'm a big fan of like reps in reserve, but I teach reps in reserve to teach like, it's just another word almost for like feeder sets, but it helps to
RPE,
structure it
reps in
better.
reserve, they all come from,
Yeah.
other like strength sport sciences. We apply them to the bodybuilding world. But yeah, like if you tell somebody a set of 10, but it's a reps in reserve RIR of 3, okay, that's a lot different than a set of 10 that's like RPE 10 or RIR 0, right? So
Yes,
that
way different.
that fatigue accumulation is something that I almost feel like bodybuilders will get into the mode of like they have to be in pain to feel like it was a good workout.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big thing that people think it has to be like, and that's why when I can't tell you how many clients I work with initially, and it's mainly lifestyle clients though that come to me like, hey, this isn't enough, like this is enough volume. I'm gonna start adding some supersets and drop sets and everything else on top of that. I was like, this is enough volume. I promise you it's enough volume.
Yep.
You just need to work on the intensity part of it, pay attention to the reps and reserve part of it, and make those sets you have count. Make them count. And if you make them count, you will see the progress. You will feel better. Your joint's not going to hurt as much. Everything just ends up getting better. But it's like anything in life, this is a skill. This is a skill, and it's something you have to practice and you have to do intentionally with it. And it's something that, you know, even you know, a lot of the athletes I work with on the competitive side, their knowledge base on that now compared to where it was like 8 months ago is night and day difference. And their physiques are changing too because of that. Their strength is through the roof with it.
Yep.
And they feel better. They feel better. More is not always the answer. It's not. And, you know, a lot of people that go in, and I just laugh at, not that there's anything wrong with like classes, right? Like Orange Theory and all that stuff. But a lot of that is just going in and like, let's see how many calories you can burn and how much sweat you can do and how painful we can make this for an hour.
100%. 100%. I think that's probably the motto for most coaches is like, make sure your client feels it. So they feel like they got to come back and
They feel like they got
out.
yeah.
And there's a place for that, but that's not what bodybuilding is. Bodybuilding is putting on tissue in the areas that you want to grow. It's not about kicking your butt for 45 minutes so you can go out and on the weekends and feel like you did some work, right? We're trying to actually make progress, which has to be a little bit more specific than just going in and killing it for 45 minutes.
100%. I would say that was a big mindset hurdle for me when more so like when I was like my later high school years. I remember I did have that mindset of going into the gym, just like, let's see how much I can sweat. Let's see, you know, how much I can kill myself basically. And I didn't really look the part at that time either. Like I had muscle, but you wouldn't look at me, you know, on the side of the street and say, oh, she lifts. And it wasn't until I really focused on quality over quantity and training with a little bit more intent and strategy and purpose that I noticed changes in my physique and I actually looked like I lifted.
And I have the same conversation with lifestyle clients that I have with competitive clients too. It's when we talk about like the training side of things. I'm like, if you're going to be doing the nutrition part of this, we might as well train in a way to look a specific way. And they're like, well, God, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I would like to look way better at 180 than just weigh 180. So yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I get good results with these people. It's because they buy in. They buy into the vision of it. They buy into not just chasing a number.
Well, that's why I love the initial consult that we have, because that's where you're basically discussing with them what their goals are, and you're painting the picture of how we're going to go from A to B to C to D, how we're going to get to that ultimate goal of yours. And it really helps because like if you believe you're doing the right things, you're going to put a lot more effort to that. And then if you're like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah. And people's BS meters are pretty good. They're pretty good. They can pick up on it pretty fast on if, you know, you're just a car salesman.
Well, and I think that's a podcast for a different time. The whole, you know, online coaches focusing more on their sales tactics than their.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Paul, I have 3 slots available for clients this month.
Only 3, but you have to be dedicated.
You have to be dedicated. I'm opening up 3 spots.
I'd love to mess with them and create like 20 fake accounts and be like, I thought you only had 3. How come you just accepted 20?
Oh my gosh, that is a way.
Let's wrap it up here today because we've got to get Coach Evan back in the kitchen, back on the treadmill, back in the gym. He is 15 days out.
Yes. And I apologize for not being able to like speak the full English language today.
Oh,
hey,
you did great.
Yeah.
I think this is a valuable time for us because we're going to get you really locked in right now. Like this is your mindset is right on top of these topics. And for anyone that's curious, I actually intended to do this show with Evan. I thought it would have been really cool. But as the time is approached, I've just realized I don't have the bandwidth to go where I need to go to get where I need to get. So I've actually stayed in shape. I'm only 7-8 pounds over stage weight right now. So my previous stage weight. So I think I'm setting myself up for a good improvement season. Maybe I'll compete in the spring, but that's part of it too. I didn't run myself into the ground. And me, Lexi, we've come out of this prep that we were both in kind of seamlessly. Like
Yeah.
even my wife has been like, I didn't even know when you were in prep and weren't. The only difference was like I was doing cardio before I'd go to bed at night. So she'd get mad because I wouldn't watch TV with her.
Oh, I love it. I
So
love it. Well, I think
think long term.
the people will be seeing more of you on episodes, right, Paul?
Yeah, we're gonna start doing a weekly episode. I want to do once a week with you guys, rotating in some guests. I want to get Coach Steven on here. Yeah, let's get cracking. So we're gonna review the topics, see what's relevant. I'm actually hanging up with you guys. I have a podcast on 30 minutes with Juma, or who you guys might know as Nday, who just qualified for the Olympia. So she is a mom of 2, a working professional, turned pro in May, and is going to the Olympia in November.
I didn't know she just turned pro in May.
Yes,
That's awesome.
So we're gonna talk with her. So that's the kind of thing I want to share more stories. Get some guests on here. So I would love to do a Ask Us Anything soon. So I don't know how you guys do those, if you put little questions on the thing.
Yeah,
So,
Just a question
we can
box up.
we could definitely plan for one of those within the upcoming weeks. We just usually put a question box on our stories on
yeah.
Instagram.
So let's plan that when we're done here. Our next one will be a Ask Us Anything. How about that?
That works for me.
Perfect. Sounds
That
like
way.
a plan.
And if Evan, if you need to just do cardio and eat lettuce, let me know.
I'll be good this week. I'll be good for next week.
I'm really going to try to get down to see you this week. This week, a couple things came up and it just, we didn't have childcare one day. So I want to come down and train with you and see you while you're in this amazing spot. You look incredible right now.
It's going to be fun, man. I got excited today. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to the Pro Physique Code, and we'll be back soon.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it.